I'm Jason from tech.Ed and I'm here with Michael. If you could tell us what you do at Microsoft.
My name is Mike Niehaus. I am a software development engineer on the Solution Accelerator team responsible for Windows deployment tools.
Just that little thing? Just a decent title. And yourself?
Hi, I'm Maureen Blythe. I look after the Windows commercial business in Microsoft Australia.
Very good. So we're here to talk about Windows, and it's obviously a while since Windows launched, and Service Pack 1 is basically upon us. Maybe you could speak about what's new in Service Pack 1, or how sales have gone, or whatever you'd like to kick off with.
I was actually reflecting with Mike earlier this afternoon that it's really 12 months, since we launched Windows 7.
Yep.
And tech.Ed this time 12 months ago was a celebration of that. It was the launch of Windows 7 and all around the product and the features. And I think 12 months on, it's been amazing to see the success of Windows in the marketplace. So initially it was consumers who really, ran in droves to stores and bought Windows 7, and now we're seeing enterprises adopting it. So obviously for enterprises it's a bit of a longer cycle.
Right, they've got
evaluate and
applications they need to test before deploying.
Correct.
That sort of thing.
So this tech was different to last year, but it's all around how to deploy. And so people like Michael who are experts in the whole notion of deployment, what you've got to consider, are here at tech.Ed sharing that with 2,700 of our closest friends. So I think for me it's really pleasing to be here at tech.Ed and see the acceptance of Windows 7 and just the groundswell around it is great.
You probably notice in sessions that the laptops that people have, most attendees are carrying either netbooks or laptops to sessions these days. No doubt a number of those are Windows 7. Do you know what sort of figures we're at for 64 or 32? That's sort of a bit of a decision, when you're upgrading or basically starting fresh, buying a new machine. A lot of new retail machines are shipping with 64 on it, probably shipping with more than 4 gig of RAM. So do you know the numbers in terms of how many people are going to 64?
I don't know the numbers.
Percentage-wise? Or?
Yeah, the numbers that I've seen for the consumer side for retail sales are well at the 2/3 mark and even going up from there. But
okay.
It's primarily driven by exactly what you said. That if you're going to buy a machine with more than 3 gig of RAM, you want the 64-bit version. On the enterprise side, we've talked with a lot of enterprises that are considering moving to 64-bit entirely.
Yep. But
still a lot of them tend to be a little more cautious and go with the 32-bit versions. Now, when they start routinely buying machines with more RAM, then
they're going to need to go to 64.
Yeah,
they've got RAM sitting in their own use, basically. Yeah. So is there anything special in Service Pack 1 that... the current state of Service Pack 1, is it in beta at the moment?
It's in beta.
Right. Do we have a launch date for when that's going?
No, we don't have a launch date.
Okay. What's going to be included in Service Pack 1? Is it just a roll-up of updates, or is there any new features?
It is primarily just a roll-up of additional compatibility fixes and other performance fixes, and really what does it take to make Windows 7 even more stable.
Yep.
Beyond that, there really aren't too many features. There's the remote FX capabilities
on the Server 2008 side,
the new Hyper-V capabilities, so those kind of go together, but otherwise it's a fairly feature-free Service Pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what we're saying to customers is no need to wait for deployment for Service Pack 1. There's nothing significant in there to wait for. So.
Well, this has been something that's probably left over from previous generations of Windows, is that business seems to have this mentality, you've got to wait for Service Pack 1 to ship. It's been 12 months now. Do you think that there's a lot of businesses who are still in that mindset of waiting for Service Pack 1, even though it is basically like a roll-up of fixes that they could get through Windows Update or whatever anyway? It seems to me that Windows is built differently these days. You don't release something unless it's built. So there seems to be a bit of work that businesses need to do to come over to that and realise that. Have you found that in deployments that you've done that people sort of standoffish in rolling it until Service Pack 1?
In the past, yes, but I really don't see that nearly as much with Windows 7, and I think a lot of that comes back to firms like Gartner coming out and saying, you really
it's
don't
okay
need
to go.
Yeah, go ahead. Just treat Windows 7 as ready to deploy and move forward.
Most of the conversation we have with customers in Australia is around how they're going to deploy, not that they're waiting for something. More what process do you go through? How do you assess hardware readiness and app compatibility and those sorts of things? So it isn't really a conversation I'm hearing around, we want to wait for Service Pack 1.
Yep.
So I think it's just for large enterprises, it's quite a lot of procedures to go through. So I think that's more.
That's right. Yeah. So obviously hardware is a concern for some businesses. If they've got machines 3, 4, 5 years old that they want to move, then they need to probably replace those machines. And then obviously you've got your software compatibilities you need to deal with as well.
Yeah.
I've seen sessions that are covering that here at tech.Ed this year.
And people thinking about sort of the whole desktop as well. It's not just the client operating system, but they're looking at Office 2010 and IE8, and so it's really a chance to really refresh the modern desktop. Some customers have desktops that look like they're 10 years old.
Yeah.
And that's not a great experience for Microsoft technology. So that's what we're seeing is people thinking through the whole, what we call the optimized desktop.
Yep.
And it kind of turns that whole Windows 7 deployment into a 18-month to 2-year project.
Right.
They figure out, well, while we're doing this, what else can we upgrade along the way?
Yeah. And so if you take, for me anyway, when I format a new machine and put Windows 7 on it, one of the first things I do after Security Essentials is put Live Essentials suite on there. The new version of that, the 2011 version, which is in beta at the moment, basically isn't supported on XP. So given that not only third parties are stopping support for XP, but also Microsoft, do you think that's also a motivator for companies or for certainly for consumers to move over, that software that they want to use is no longer available on there?
I think so, and we've got a very open policy. We produce our product life cycle. So the life cycle for XP was announced the day that it was launched, I think back in 2004. So I think, particularly enterprise level, they tend to look further ahead and they work back and go, okay, how much longer do I have until XP is out of support? What do I need to do around that? So I think probably enterprises are more aware of that than consumers.
Yeah.
But I think it's more, I go back to the point that Windows 7 is such a groundswell in popularity around it. I think it's more, what can I do with Windows 7 rather than what can I do with Windows XP?
Yeah. The proof is really in the pudding, I guess, that it is stable and it's okay to go to. So
most of the Live Essential pieces also are kind of consumer focused as well. So the fact that consumers are going in droves over to Windows 7 seems to make sense that Live Essentials would tackle that as well.
Yeah. Windows Phone 7 is obviously a big thing at tech.Ed this year, and it showcased in the keynote. I was just wondering what happens when you plug a Windows Phone 7 device into Windows 7. Is device stage supported on those devices?
That's a really good question. As soon as I get one of those devices, I'll let you know.
They're pretty hard to get hold of, I realise that.
We're all keen to get hold of it.
Cool. Okay, so I guess we'll find out in time. Maybe you could speak about some of the experiences you've had with companies implementing upgrading to Windows 7. There's probably a couple of case studies or examples you want to highlight. Or larger deployments. Maybe you could speak about the numbers of machines that have been transitioned, or...
Yeah, we tend to work with companies large and small, usually at the same time, and they kind of all go through the same challenges, whether they're deploying 100 machines or 100,000 machines.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to talk to both ends of the spectrum and see just the challenges that they're going through. But usually it's more of that methodical testing of all the applications, finding all the drivers that they need, just getting to the point where once they push the button to go, that they know everything's just going to work. So in a medium-sized sort of organisation, how long do you think that upgrade project would be to implement Win 7? 12 months or? Yeah, generally it can be done within 12 months.
Yeah.
You kind of spend the typical story we like to say is what you can use the free tools that we provide to get from say 0 to 80% in 2 weeks. And then you're going to take the next 11 months to go that extra.
So that might be identifying all the issues you're going to have, just hardware, software wise, and then you've got to go and deal with that.
Machines, you're going to have to just be slow and methodical.
Very good. Do you know any numbers in terms of new machines sold? That's obviously a primary way that Windows 7 is gaining market share. Do we know any numbers locally in Australia about how many machines are sold every year?
Yeah, unfortunately we can't disclose local numbers.
Okay.
But we can say this, we were blown away with the success of the product. So, though I can't give you numbers, I can tell you that
been happy
with their feet and their wallets, and so very happy.
Very good. If there's any other information you want to add or share, or
no, I just think from a tech.Ed perspective where we are today, it's just been great to see the level of engagement of all the IT professionals out there, and the sessions that we've run around deployment have really well attended. So obviously, there's a real appetite and thirst for it there. So I really hope that people walk away from tech.Ed with useful tips, and that also they've networked with their customer, their sort of fellow peers who've gone through deployments already. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's one of the great things about tech.Ed is being able to talk to other people in similar situations. For sure, that networking is one of the reasons to turn up. It's great.
Yeah, it is amazing to just survey the audience and say, well, how many of you are running Windows 7 now?
Yeah.
It's like 99% of the room.
Whereas 12 months ago, that would have been completely different.
Yeah. It's amazing 12 months, the difference, isn't it?
Right. How many are in the middle of a deployment project?
Yeah.
Most of them.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good year.
Very good. All right. Well, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Nice to talk to you.
Not a problem at all. Thank you.